And remember, you have a bit of fabric to kind of add as a shock absorber, to what did I just say? To act. And you have a bit
We
of
knew what you
fabric.
meant. It's okay.
The Xiaomi Mi Mix, not Mi, I always say that.
Is it
Damn it.
Me fold? Me mix fold?
It's a Mi, no, see, I always put me in there.
Xiaomi. Xiaomi mix.
It's the Xiaomi, what is it?
I think it's the mix
Mix.
fold.
That's mix. That's why I always get me and mix. Okay, let me say. God damn it!
Thanks, Xiaomi, for getting rid of me. Now you've just
I
made
know.
us all.
I like the me branding. Honestly,
I did too.
Huawei will be launching. Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Jouar, and today is Thursday, August 29th, 2024. And I've got Clifton Thomas here with me. Hey, Cliff, how are you?
Hi, Miriam. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. I'm so glad to finally have you on the show. You know, Adam always gets all the love, so now it's time you get some love too. I also want to thank you for having me on your show so many times. It's been great. So listen, we're gonna get in the weeds a little bit here, but for the audience, I actually recorded the podcast with Brian before some of the embargoes had lifted, just because the timing worked out that way. So, we're a little behind on our news. So me and Cliff are gonna hit some news items this week, and then I want to talk with you a little bit about my experience on some of these new devices. I have the Pixel 9 Pro XL right here in its case. So this is the official case. Mine is that porcelain color, so the phone is that color too. The color is perfect match. And this case, by the way, is a much better fit and much better feeling. Not quite as sticky silicone-y as before, but still nice and protective. Fits really well. Like buttons are, I don't know if they're metal, but they're fake metal buttons, as you can see here. Like
Nice and clicky.
It's nice and clicky. And then I have the OnePlus Buds 3 Pro that I mentioned on the show, but I couldn't tell you about their sound quality at the time. The embargo was, I know it's weird. I don't like these embargoes that are set like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, basically, I haven't been able to tell you about these devices too much because of the embargo. So now I've got some thoughts. And I want to hear your thoughts too, Cliff, because you probably have read reviews. And probably have had talked to people who have the devices. So what's your take, on the Pixel right now? What, 2 weeks post-event, 3 weeks post-event?
So, first of all, I was going to say lifelong, but that really doesn't make sense. But the life of the Pixel guy, it's kind of my go-to when I'm looking for an Android flagship. And I did have the Pixel 8 Pro for in the beautiful bay blue.
You're lucky.
Yes.
I never had that color. My Pixel 8 Pro is the whitish porcelain, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that the porcelain that you have in the now, did you have the 9 Pro or the 9 Pro XL?
This is 9 Pro
part.
XL.
XL, okay.
Yeah.
So hard to tell unless you actually see them next to each other. But so, I mean, as far as the physical hardware is concerned, everything that I've seen says that they've moved it up just a little bit in terms of the build quality. I don't necessarily know about the materials, but it's a very attractive phone.
I think you're 100% right here. This is definitely a gorgeous phone. Like that, you notice it. Like I think Pixel has finally arrived in terms of build quality on this product, and it's good news because it's like it's taken a Google quite a bit of time. I think, like, I don't mind the previous Pixels, don't get me wrong, they're fine, but this, I don't know, you have to feel it in hand and see it, and even me taking it out of the case and showing it to you on camera right now wouldn't help us. It's a hand feel thing. It's just the way the slab size I'm not a huge fan of because everybody's doing the iPhone thing, but here, right. and it's not only them, like Nothing Phone 2 did that too, where they rounded off just the edge, so it's just not as painful in your hand. And I'm not a huge fan of the rounded, like, here's what's weird. I'm not a huge fan of this design in principle. There's a lot of things that bug me about it. Like the rounded corners Like, no, I'm not a rounded corners. Like, I'm a square phone person. I like that Galaxy S24 Ultra vibe. But I have to say, same with the slab sides. I'm just like, iPhone, copying the iPhone. Everybody's got slab sided phones now. Nothing,
Yes.
you've got like Samsung, you've got, Pixel. Where are we? Where in the world are we going? This is BS, right? That's kind of like my gut. But then I touch this phone, I use this phone, I handle this phone, and I'm like, this is gorgeous. This is so well done. The bezels are perfectly even, it's just delightful to hardware. Like, and then I love the visor. In fact, having it in the case doesn't do the visor justice because it makes it more flush, which in one hand is kind of nice because it makes the phone easier to handle with the case on. But that visor is more iconic than ever. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. And it almost the first thing I saw when I saw the leaks, for the Pixel 8 or for the Pixel 9 design, I thought it almost reminds me of the notification bubbles that you get in more modern Android.
And I think that's because, they're taking in that design language that Google created, right? Like, what is it called? Material View or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the cohesiveness of it. Like, this is of course it feels like an iPhone to some extent, but is that a bad thing? And I'm learning that with the software together is not a bad thing.
Right.
Like,
I agree.
And it makes the whole thing as a whole, like as a one experience, more cohesive. I'm surprised at how much I dig it now that I have it, despite the fact that still intellectually I wish it was more rectangular. I wish it didn't have slab sides, but then I'm like, okay, this is working. This is really good. So kudos to Google. The camera on this thing is, again, it's pretty much the same hardware, but having a faster f-stop, f of 1.7 on that ultra wide, holy crap, low light on the ultra wide now is no joke. And, on top of that, I don't think the tensor chip has made a big difference in the ISP or anything, but the AI algorithms have improved even further. And I'm talking machine learning here. I'm not talking about the gimmicky AI stuff, right?
There is definitely a difference there. And I don't know if you want to talk about the AI in depth. The one thing I do think, and this is something, just because Apple does rounded corners doesn't mean that they have a patent on rounded corners.
No, of course not.
But it does feel like the industry direction. Even Samsung with its non-ultra phones, they do have those similar round in terms of like the radius. The face of the phone really does. It does look like an iPhone, but that distinctive design language is on the back. And the one thing I was going to ask you about regarding the camera bump is I know with the Pixel 8 Pro, mine, I think I had it for, even with the case on, 2 or 3 days, and I already had scratches upon scratches on that finish on the 8 Pro. It looks like the finish is a little different this year. Do you think you're going to have those same issues?
Yeah, I had the same problems as you. The scratches on the bezel, whatever, of the visor.
Right.
Yeah, that's the right
visor.
word.
There you go.
On my previous phones, especially my 7 Pro, my Google 7 Pro has a ding it's clearly one of those, like, this is a Miriam trademark of walking into the corner of a table with the phone in your pocket.
Well,
and I always put my phone in my pocket, screen towards my thigh. So what gives? The glass or the camera pod?
I'd rather it be the camera pod.
And usually I'm not talking about walking like full on onto a table.
Right.
It's just more I stumble a bit and I kind of brush the table as I go by. And so, glass mostly of the time resists that, no problem.
Right.
You really have to fall on a table for the glass to break. And remember, you have a bit of fabric to act as a shock absorber there, right? So it's not like a huge deal, but it's interesting because I feel like the visor shouldn't, like, I was not expecting the visor to bend, like to get literally the aluminum to have like an indent.
Right.
Thankfully, it didn't touch the lenses are fine, and so and it's really not obvious. You have to look at it and go like, whoa, like there's a bend in
just
in
in
your
that
visor
certain
there.
light, right?
Like a ding, like somebody like hit it with something. Yep. But scratches right away on those last 2 pixels, like the 6 Pro had the black visor. 7 Pro and 8 Pro, both of them have a lot of this, and I've got them in cases, so they have a lip. So I'm surprised, but this so far nothing, because it's kind of like that satin finished. Here I'm trying to without losing focus.
And I
see that satin
I do.
finish?
It looks really nice. Yeah. And it's kind of got a satin finish on the back this year with the Pro models as well, which looks really
so
nice.
I like the problem here, so far design wise, and I'll show you real quick, is this. Watch, I just took the case off a little bit. It's super glossy, the rails, and I hate fingerprints on phones. So I was like, immediately, like I wiped it down with the chamois and then put it in the case after putting a SIM in it. I know I'm a total dork, but
it looks like where the scratches are going to come this year, though. It's definitely not going to. It looks like less on the camera housing and more on the sides if you're not throwing a case.
Yeah,
on.
And if you have a Pixel 9, it's the reverse, right? So the Pixel 9, I don't think the visor is polished, but I do think the rails are also kind of like satin. And then the glass is shiny instead. And honestly, look, since I have a case on the phone most of the time, I don't really care either way. But can we have matte or satin on all of it? Like, can we have the whole phone be like not a fingerprint magnet, please? So Pixel 9 Pro, 9 Pro XL. I don't have the 9 and the 9 Pro, but I've read the reviews like you have, and we all kind of agree that they've nailed it. Like, I think, like, here's the takeaway. Like, for me, these are the best Pixels, absolutely, but these are also the best Android phones I've ever used. And I've used a lot of Android phones.
That's saying something.
And I'm sorry, like, I used to be always joking about Stockholm syndrome as a Pixel user, like, my captures treat me well, and I'm going to stay in that ecosystem because of the software and the experience. That is still totally true. The software and the experience blow my mind, but I do no longer feel like I'm a hostage. Like, I'm doing this by choice now. Like, this is the first time where I can say, like, screw you, Samsung, and everyone else, I'm going with this phone, like 100%. There's no doubt anymore. Like OnePlus 12 is a great phone. I still highly recommend it. S24 Ultra, 100%. I've got both of them. I love them, but I didn't make them my daily driver because I felt like I was being held hostage by Google as a Pixel user with all the great software features and stuff. But now I feel like the hardware is actually like living up to that.
Right.
And
it's finally like 100% on.
It's like hallelujah somehow.
Right.
Like the angels are singing or something. I don't know. I'm not religious, but you guys interpret that any way you want. Like, it's just, it's just a revelation. And for me, I don't use much of the AI stuff. Like, it's the cameras, it's the hand feel, the hardware. I'm a hardware person. I like my hardware to be good. And Google was always a little. And then G4 is the only disappointment. It's still, But here's the thing. Thermally, at least with the Pros, which have like better cooling system. The performance is very steady. Like my colleague Ryan at Hot Hardware did the review of the 3 non-folding Pixels. I'm going to be doing the folding one. I get one. Some people have received them for review, I believe, but I think I'm in the second wave on this one, so it'll be after IFA for me. But here's the thing: like, he reviewed them and he said the thermals don't throttle. They don't throttle.
Finally,
look. The Samsung throttles on the freaking Galaxy S24 Ultra on 8 Gen 3. Now, granted, it starts at a higher level, so it throttles down to probably where the Pixel is. But the Pixel at least is consistent, which is I've never seen on a G series ever. Yeah, and the radio is supposedly better. I can't really tell because I don't have my T-Mo SIM in there. I have an AT&T SIM in there. So until I put my own, because I haven't. Here's the thing: I'm going to switch to the Pixel 9 Pro Fold as my main this year, and I'm waiting for my review unit to transfer everything from my Pixel 8 Pro over. So I haven't really done the transfer yet.
You heard it first here, guys. You're actually going with a Fold this year.
Yeah, I'm going with it. I'm going with it. This is basically my kind of like in my review mode in terms of the setup, right? Sure. I've got my social media on it. But I don't have my banking or the important stuff, and I don't use it for texting. So I put an AT&T SIM that I had floating around in there, and so far, performance has been really solid. The other thing I want to point out, thermals have been good too. Like in hand, it doesn't seem to get as warm. The vapor chamber is doing its thing. but it's still not quite as, like, if you actually benchmark it, it's still not like as fast. But here's the thing. In day to day, the thing feels like OnePlus 12. Like the snappiness, that responsiveness, like it's just really, this is the first Pixel where I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like this is really fluid, like, you know? And so I'm sorry I'm gushing, guys, but like this is a major, major step forward for Google. Like
it's very exciting too, and I just hope we don't encounter that bit rot that seems to have affected some other.
Oh my
Pixels.
God, yeah. And then to be honest with you, I still, if they had made this phone with an 8 Gen 3, I'd be it'd be more ecstatic even. And then the display is so bright. Like you have an 8 Pro, right? So the 8 Pro is pretty damn bright. Like I live in California most of the time, so brightness is a deal. Like right now, my room is so bright because I'm like, there's literally, like I'm facing north here, but this is north. But like just the light from the sun reflecting across the buildings across the way into my room right now, it's blinding. And I need high brightness mode in my room. And you guys have seen my podcast. Those of you on Patreon, you've seen me when I do the podcast in Vancouver, where I'm facing the ocean. And I'm literally like it's so bright, like in my living room there where I do the recording, it's just like I need HBR right away.
You have to have the HDR on all the time just to be able to read your phone.
The high brightness mode goes nuts. But here's the thing: this phone is even brighter. And you notice it. You notice it when you're editing pictures and you're looking at detail. The first day I took it to Electrify Expo, which is like a kind of festival of EVs where the public comes with their kids and tries out all the brands of their EVs out, and you can climb in them and you can take them for test drives with sometimes, as you being the driver, sometimes they have test drivers and take you around the track and stuff. It's fun. And, I cover it as media every year. I go and do like a bunch of social media stuff. And, I got the Pixel the day before. So I was like, okay, this is going to be my only camera tomorrow. Video, photos, everything. And I did, and it was great. But more importantly, I wanted to edit some photos. And one of the things that I always find myself doing is, on any phone, usually, is find some shade. And I still did. Obviously, it's better to find some shade. But what I noticed compared to my 8 Pro, which I use every day, and I do a lot of photos with and edit a lot of photos with, is that I could see better details in the sunlight with max brightness. Now, would you do that? No, probably better off finding some shade and not killing your battery and stuff. But they've definitely done some improvements there. Now, as far as the software and the AI and stuff, I tried some of the AI features. The what's the one where you can double take or whatever, where you take like 2 photos of and it blends them together? Like
it's like add me, I think is what it's called.
Add me, that's it, whatever.
Okay.
That works, and it works really, really well for the Patreons here. Let me see if I can show you this. I'm actually going to post the photo that you're going to see right now. I'm going to post to social media, so you'll be able to see it with the 2 shots as well, so you can see them, like one after the other. But this is the shot I shot. And I've been added to this photo. Like I am, sorry, it's blurring the aircraft carrier in the background. There's not that much portrait effect. There's actually 0 portrait effect on this photo. But I've been added to this, and if you pixel peep, you can't really see it. Like I know that some people have done the add me thing and have seen like pixel peep and seen some things. But for this, good light. We didn't move the camera too much. We were all pretty competent humans following the instructions on the screen. And it actually placed me behind, even though my short photo was shot after. So cool. It placed me behind. My arm is behind the other people's. It really does look like I was in the shot. It doesn't look fake, So there's some things that are great. Now the, reimagine feature has been very hit and miss. Sometimes it doesn't want to do it because there's a human in the shot. So maybe they've changed, because how The Verge wrote a lot about this, how they're able to do like drug paraphernalia and like accidents and things, like crazy stuff.
Dead people.
yeah, exactly. So I tried, not all that, but I tried just like my friend yesterday went to the movies. I took a picture of her with the food in front of her, and she was holding a piece of chicken like this, like in front of her face. And I was like, reimagine the chicken like into like, I don't know, like something fun, like, some other food, like a chocolate bar, and it wouldn't do it. It said like, I can't do it with a face in the way. And I was like, so maybe, they've listened and added some guardrails. Also, I found that I had French fries right next, sort of overlapping a can of soda. And I said, select the can of soda, and it it would select the sodas and the fries no matter what I tried. Like I had to manually almost refine the selection, and I was like, that's not what I expect in this kind of scenario. I need it to be easy and bulletproof. But if
it's
I
hard to do with your finger too.
If I've separated the French fry container from the actual soda container, and then I could highlight them separately and replace them with stuff. And the replacing was good, but it's a gimmick. Like this is not a feature.
Yes.
I didn't try everything else yet. There's a bunch of features I haven't tried, like some of the video features yet. But honestly, overall, a few AI features like definitely being able to take an object and move it a bit. Taking an object and deleting it works generally pretty well. Although because it's generative, it will reinvent the background. You know how Magic Eraser isn't really generative AI. It's just kind of more like doing what Photoshop does without the AI tools, where it just kind of like you can highlight something and it kind of like copies pixels over. This is always trying to reinvent what's there. So sometimes you just want to remove a car, like it's in the distance too, so it's not like a big, but then it decides to put a tree there, and you're like, no, I want nothing there. I want you to recreate and continue the background that way. And it gives you option, but like I don't know, I haven't played with the prompts. I wish I could say something like, maybe that'll work, saying like instead of using the erase feature, use the reimagine feature and say fill in the background to look like what's on either side of the selected area. And maybe the AI will figure that out. But like that's too much work already for me. Like, I'm sorry. Like
it is such a gimmick. But I will say, like, even with Photoshop, and this is something that in some ways Photoshop has been doing for a lot longer than it's been done on our phones. But it doesn't have that context of what's behind in order to fill in. And so I think the AI training just from you and you saying things in a particular way is definitely going to help with that. Things that you can't do with Photoshop, really.
Exactly. So Pixel 9 series so far, big thumb of approval. Again, I don't really care about the software that much. Like I like what Google delivers every year. There's a few new things here, but they're not what is attracting me to the phones. The thing that's really attracting me to the phones is better cameras again, and the fact that all these existing features that I'm used to and I can't live without, like the hold for me and the call screening and all that still exists. And somehow Apple and Samsung still don't have anything quite like that. I think they do, but people would tell me, but yes, they do. But then I'm like, but can it do that? And they're like, oh no, it can't do that. And I'm
it's
like,
not
then
even
you
close.
Don't have it. Like, how is it that they don't have these features? Like,
I don't
this
know.
is astonishing to me that we have all these generative AI BS features that are gimmicky that, and sometimes are good, like in the case of AdMe. But like, why can't we have our cake and eat it too? Why can't we have, like, I just don't feel like it should be exclusive to Pixel. Somebody's got to be able to recreate these features. Samsung would be the first one to do it.
You would think, especially
and
now
Apple, because Apple runs their own freaking schedule, so they're not going to necessarily go after doing what like with AI they were kind of forced to. Right? I think what the AI features in iOS 18 this year we're going to see are a big result of them dropping this car project and going, holy, we're behind on AI, or not behind, but we haven't prioritized these features, and they're becoming big marketing things. And we're a marketing company, and also, we have all these engineers that worked on AI for the car, so let's get them to do something cool. And I think
you have to wonder how much of that. You have to wonder how much of that was just iPhone owners finally feeling FOMO from their Pixel owning brother.
I think it's all legit. Like I think Apple did it right. I think it's a really idea to pivot their car team that they canceled into AI, and then kind of bring that level of parity so that the average person goes, oh, you have AI features, Samsung has AI features, everybody's got AI features.
Right.
Do people use AI features? Probably not. Maybe once or twice. It doesn't matter. But it's important for the marketing. It's also important for the shareholders, right? Like I don't care, but like some, people are like, oh, I'm an Apple shareholder and you don't have AI in your products and Samsung does.
But we'll see. I'm curious to see how Apple Intelligence actually operates once it actually gets out into the open outside of beta. And I mean, I don't expect it to be on the level of what Google has brought this year. And while, you know, some of those features are definitely debatable and do feel very gimmicky, like you're saying, I feel like Add Me is something that I've waited for a long time to be able to do on the phone. You know, the one thing I would say that I was surprised about just very quickly with the new Pixel series is that I kind of thought that the video, I forget what the feature was called, but the video enhance would actually be done on the phone instead of in the cloud. And yet, while supposedly it's faster, it's still done.
But here's the thing you have to understand: like all these generative AI features of deleting and moving objects that were already there, and then now the reimagine that they've added, which is going to end up on other Pixels because it's a photo editing feature. Right. It's just part of Google Photos, and you know, if you subscribe to Google One like I do, you get those features, and eventually the Pixel features trickle down, right?
Right.
That requires you to save your photos to the cloud. Like you cannot, if you don't have, even if you have Google One, like I do, and if you don't turn on backup, you do not get those features.
Right.
Now, does that mean they're doing it in the cloud, or does that mean they're doing it on device, or is it a hybrid? I don't know. But it makes me question, like, why are you is this a way to get images to seed your machine learning algorithm and improvement, which is totally legit, because this is probably some fine print in the terms of service I didn't read, and I'm not upset that Google is farming my images personally. Like I get it.
I'm not either.
But some people are, and I respect that. But my point is that that's my biggest concern so far since Galaxy AI made its great debut last year, and well, this year, I guess, earlier in January with the S24 series. And great fanfare. You're going to say, a lot of you are going to say, well, there's been generative AI features on our phones for a while. Before that, you know, like the Chinese have done some stuff. Like, look, I agree. But for the general public, AI on phones didn't really become a thing until January. Like
this year. Yep.
You know, like, yes, we have been using machine learning on our phones forever. Segmentation, where it decides what's the sky is, so it can expose that slightly different from your face, from the trees. That's ML. Like, that's been around for years now. Like, Google started it. Like, HDR Plus is ML based. Like, all kinds of stuff like that. The point is, I'm talking about like this, you know, the little twinkly star features. Those are a consciousness of the average consumer today,
right?
And so, you know, yeah, I can live without it. Like Magic Eraser is not great. It's not really AI generative. It's more, you know, machine learning and kind of pixel filling, and it doesn't really work that great. Like very rarely have I had a result with, you know, like it's good if you look on the screen, as soon as you pixel peep, you're like, oof. And I think that where I think the generative AI is superior is that even though it's replacing the car with a tree, which is what I didn't want, but that does look like it fits there. And it does look, there's no weird pixel weirdness generally, and I have to give them credit for that. So there's improvements, and you know, let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes.
It's early days too.
Early days.
The more information they have of ours, the better it'll get.
But here's what I'm going to say. If you're a Pixel user and you have a Pixel 7 or 6, buy this phone. Get this phone. Ooh. It's a better phone. If you're coming from an 8, it's a harder sell because the G3 to G4 is not a huge difference. And the only difference really between the Pros and the Pro XL is the thermals. The fact that the vapor chamber really makes a difference. So if you're playing games on your Pixel and you're on an 8 Pro, get a 9 Pro XL for sure, because the thermals are better managed. If you're playing games on a Pixel 8 non-Pro right now, wow, you're very ballsy, because that small size plus the G3 and no vapor chamber, ouch, it's got to be hot in your hands. But you're not gonna. It's not gonna get better with a Pixel 9 because it doesn't have a vapor chamber either. So, and
just buy Oven Mitch, it'll be fine.
If you go to Hot Hardware and look at the Pixel review and the benchmarks right now, where Ryan ran the thermal benchmarks, you'll see that, yeah, the Pixel 9 does thermal throttle, but not the 9 Pro as much. And the 9 Pro XL is definitely better than the three of them. So heed that advice, folks. Let's talk a little bit briefly about this Pixel 9a leak, because I'm very offended. If here's a reason I'm offended, is because I normally don't give leaks much of a, you know, of credence, but Google leaks are always pretty much accurate. What are you thinking, Google? The visor? The visor. The visor, your trademarked iconic thing that makes people recognize a Pixel 500 yards away. You have it on the 8A and you're removing it from the 9A. That's basically the takeaway from this link. I'll put in a link in the show notes, folks. That's basically all you have to know. There's a leaked photo of what's allegedly a 9A that looks perfectly great, except when you turn it over and all of a sudden it looks like a Nothing Phone 3 or something.
Yes, it looks like the Nothing 2A with the lens lens glass
Flattened.
where the flattened, right, and off centered like where it is on the 9 series.
What are your
thoughts? It just looks generic.
Are you as mad as I am about it?
I don't understand it. You go to all this trouble, like you're saying, to establish a brand identity and design language. You integrated it that much better, with the 9 Pro, 9 Pro XL, and even the Foldy Boy. And then you just complete, maybe this is just a way to, I guess, I'm almost wondering if they're just cheaping out on and maybe there's going to be more
it's less
separation.
materials, right? Because I have the 8A, and the 8A is a delightful phone, but the visor is still made of metal.
Exactly.
And the frame is still made of metal, and the frame here is still made of metal, so maybe it's cheaper.
I'm wondering, because the one other thing is that everything went up $100 this year, which I was actually, while I hate that it's more expensive, I think it makes sense when you're talking about also bringing the A series in line, because there's more separation between them, and so it makes more sense now to buy a 9, I suppose. But yeah, it just feels very generic. And who knows? Like you're saying, this probably is real.
Yeah. Anyway, check it out, folks. Let us know what you think in social, because I want to move on to the next thing. The next thing is these buds. So I have had the OnePlus Buds 3 Pro now for quite a while, a few weeks.
Very nice.
Yeah, so they have very interesting shape to the case. It's kind of like tapered a weird way. As USB-C connectors, some pairing buttons, a DIN audio branding on the hinge.
It looks a little bit like a bar of soap.
And the wireless charging is in the front, which is really weird. The coil is right there.
That is weird.
And so, and these are, very much like the previous generation, right? Like the shiny AirPod Pro style design. So here's the good news. They sound great. These are the closest thing that we have. Okay, let me rewind before I say that, because I'm already digging a hole for myself here. So here's what you need to know that I think is important. I'm not a huge fan of the Samsung Galaxy Buds 3 Pro. I have them. They're right here, actually. But I have them. They are fantastic. They are potentially the best Android earbuds I've ever used, and overall, objectively. The problem is that they're very clinical. So they have phenomenal sound quality, noise canceling, but they don't have that emotion. I don't know how it's really hard to, I'm not an audiophile, but I worked in the audio industry for years in video games, coding the audio for video games. So I have audiophile type ears. I can tell you when something sounds good and doesn't. And to me, I don't want to wear them long term. They tire me out because they're so clinical. Whereas,
so would you say they lack personality? Is that kind of what you're...
They don't have, and it's not about EQ curve or anything, because I like to EQ my earbuds to be very flat no matter what I have. And that's why having in-device EQ that you can tweak that stays in the buds no matter what device you pair to is really critical. And all these modern buds have that. But the OnePlus Buds have that special something. They don't... at first, you put them in, you go okay, they sound good. Then you start listening to them for a while, and you're like, wow. Whereas the Samsungs are you put them in, you're like, wow. And then you listen to them for a while, and you're like, this is a little much. and I think this is so Samsung, right? This describes Samsung as a company, right? And somewhere in between there are the AirPods Pro. I'm not a big fan. I think, look, Apple makes really good earbuds forget the AirPods. The Pro is the one you want, and the Max are fantastic too. But my big gripe is that the only thing you gain with Apple is that weird automatic device roaming where it goes from one device as you use it to another. I don't give a flying F about that.
Right.
Like I just disconnect from one device and go in the Bluetooth menu and I'm done. Like, why do I need that? Plus, I have headphones and earbuds paired for each device. Like, what are you? Like, get multiple AirPods. Like, hello, like they're not that expensive, okay? Like, and my point is, you don't have to buy the Apple ones if you forget the roaming feature. You just buy you can buy the OnePluses. They're $179 or something. They're not much. They're much more affordable, right?
One thing I was disappointed to see with these, just very quickly, was that their codec support is only SBC and A.
Well, that's the problem, 100%.
Right.
And that's the biggest issue with them is that if you really want to enjoy the best possible sound quality, you need to pair them with a phone from, the BBK group, right? And because, or actually Huawei or Honor, like there's a bunch of companies that support that codec. But there's no LDAC, which is a real pain in the butt. Whereas you get, but that's also true of the Buds from Samsung. They only have the better codec if you pair them with, and which is even a more custom codec because it's only Samsung. If you pair them with only the high-end Samsung phones too. Like if you go low end, they don't have that feature. So yeah, whereas much more of the BBK group have LHDC, right? So at least you get that. But LDAC would be what I want. And here's the funny part: you get LDAC on the nothing CMF buds, Then again, they don't sound as good. So, but here's the thing about the OnePlus you have to know is they're, for the money, $179 roughly or whatever they are, unbelievable. Like they are the best earbuds for Android, in my opinion, simply because, yes, you lose the LDAC, but you gain this quality of sound that's not tiring long-term. You get good battery life, good noise canceling, wireless charging. Like they're high end. They're really high end. They basically replace the OnePlus Buds 2 Pro from last year, which were also pretty decent, but this is a way of a step up. I actually thought that the OnePlus Buds 3 non-Pro were a step up from the Buds 2 Pro. The ones that have the same case but are slightly cheaper that came out like earlier this year. And then now they came out with those, which are like, whoa, quite a jump up from all of that. So that's my takeaway really in a nutshell. So, buy the Samsung ones if you have a Samsung phone. But be aware that you might or might not find them a little tiring after a while. Buy the OnePluses if you have a BBK group phone, and Apple ones if you have an Apple phone, of course. But I would say if you're an Apple person and you care about audio, look at other options, okay? Like AirPods Pro aren't that, like I'm rooting for Apple for this event coming up, which is a good segue. September 10th, the iPhone event's being scheduled, and there's talk of some new earbuds. And I really hope that the AirPods Pro 3 are, finally fully USB-C from the get-go, because now they changed that halfway with the AirPods 2. So I hope that we finally get something that, and I think we will. I think Apple is not going to stay still, especially after Samsung just did their thing. But the reality is, that still is not my favorite. My favorite is still the Nothing Ear, the new ones, the high-end ones. LDAC is supported, great noise canceling, even more comfortable. That's the other thing. It's a fit thing too, because fit is really relative. But the OnePlus fit me better than the Galaxies, and the Nothing fit me better than the OnePlus. And I tried the tips and blah blah blah. So just be aware of that.
I have not had a chance to try the Ear A or the newest, their newest high-end, but I did purchase the original Nothing earbuds, and I felt like those were the most comfortable.
So they had the Ear original; they were okay. Yes. Then the Ear 2 were better, and then the Ear A and Ear again, but third gen,
right?
Like there's definitely an improvement along the way of these. Here's what's really interesting: the Ear 3, like the high-end ones now. Sound just about the same as the Ear A. So there's a price difference here, and the price difference manifests itself in slight differences in noise cancellation and ANC quality, And of course, you get no wireless charging on the case, and they're cheaper, and they come in cool color. That yellow is really incredible.
I love that yellow.
I have the yellow, but sound quality wise, the only thing you lose is you get a 3-band EQ versus like a multi-band EQ on the ear 3, like the top line. And here's one thing where I think the ear A are better other than price is that even though they're like with a 3-band EQ, I've managed to tune them to be just fine. So my point is you don't necessarily need to go all the way to the ear. And the ear A have one advantage. They do better wind suppression. And I'm not talking about when you're on a call. I'm talking about when you're walking in a windy environment and you're listening to music. The placement of the mic is slightly different and such that you don't, it just cancels winds out. Whereas if I walk with the better ones, I get a wind noise. I can hear it. And so
I'm seeing discounts on these as well right now for the first time.
So what I'm trying to say is nothing is still my favorite, and I might actually just buy the ear A instead of if you don't need wireless charging and you don't care about having 10-band EQ or whatever, but trust me, I've been able to tune them just fine with a 3-band EQ. So yeah, there you go. That's the state of earbuds in a nutshell. Okay, so let's rapid fire some news now. Okay, let's start with HMD Barbie phone.
Ooh, pink.
What do you think?
I think it is a nice option for people who want to take some of the noise out of their lives. For there's definitely a segment of the population, especially that Gen Z, that are kind of just consciously moving away from more connected devices like smartphones, and I think it's a cool, fun option, especially with the I think it was accessories that you could add and to bedazzle it and things like that. It's fun.
I think it's great. I think the price is okay. I could be a little cheap. I think it should be a $99 phone. Remember, this is a dumb phone. It does have KaiOS, so it can install some basic apps. It's a T9, so 5 megapixel camera. There's a headphone jack and there's USB-C. There's 4G, LTE, and it works on all 3 networks, which is great. All of this is great. It's pink. I'm on board. All the bedazzling goodness, I'm on board. But I'm more excited about another pink phone. I'm more excited about, and I've already mentioned this in the show a few weeks ago. I am more excited about the HMD
you got
Skyline.
the Skyline. I'm so jealous.
I'm going to unbox it for the Patreons right now. Let's do this. All right, the phone's up here. Wait. The phone is in, so I'm not going to show you too much about what's in the box because there's not much in the box. There's a manual here. Okay, manual. And then there's I think just a cable. No, actually it's a pink cable. Pink cable.
Nice one, HMD.
Okay, great. It's actually slightly lilac colored. I think maybe the phone is lilac. Anyway, that's all there's in the box. The box is actually pretty thick for something that doesn't have a charger in it. But the phone, okay, so let me see if I can do this without breaking anything. All right, I'm pulling it out of its thing, like it just slides out. So I can actually rebox it, make a video for y'all. Look at this thing.
Oh, I love it.
Look at that corner. Isn't that like totally like a Lumia from back in the day?
Yes. It reminds me so much of the, besides the 920, but what was the one that came, the 925?
Yeah. Look, this is metal. This is like, look, antenna bands.
Wow.
Look at the power lock key here or whatever that is. Like, I think it's an extra button. It's textured because you have power and volume on the other side. And at the bottom here, check out the screws on it. It's got screws.
Yeah, and the idea with this is that it's somewhat user repairable, right? Like that's the whole
so it came with an iFixit kit and instructions on how to take it apart. I'm not going to do that, honestly. I know I can. And I've prepared it many a thing in my life, but I'm a big believer that you're going to destroy the water resistance on that thing. Here's what I'm excited about this phone. Well, some things are fickle. It's pink. That's fickle. I love the design. That's also fickle. But I think what's more interesting is this is the first phone we've seen from HMD/Nokia, although they just don't use that branding, which is so stupid. But
I don't understand.
It's the first phone from that company that has decent specs and has Qi 2. It has magnets.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get one. Pink, good looking Nokia Lumia design, good specs overall, mid range. Like, why wouldn't I get that? So anyway, you're welcome for the little mini unboxing, folks. So Barbie phone, whatever. It's pink, but this is more exciting to me.
Me too.
I'll bedazzle this. Give me the stickers from the Barbie phone. I'll put them in the back of that HMD Skyline.
I had a thought though, is that one of the things that was such a standout real quick with those Lumia phones and, some Sonys and things like that too, is that they had the camera shutter button.
Mm-hmm.
And we just talked about Apple. So this HMD does not have it, but
No.
Apple supposedly is going to have a shutter button on the new iPhone 16.
If it's not dual detent, they fail.
Right. Get out. And I'm just really more than anything wondering what they're going to name it, because they're going to have a cool name that's going to help them invent it. So
yeah,
but I'm glad to see it though. But yeah, I love that HMD Skyline. I think it's just retro isn't always a great thing, but with this, it's nice to see that design language come back.
Since we're speaking of iPhone, let's jump into the iPhone news real quick. So I mentioned that since the last podcast, they've announced the It's Glow Time iPhone event for September 10th. So mark your calendars. This is purely a PSA. There's a link in the show notes to The Verge that has a little more coverage about what to expect. Check it out. Be there. I don't always watch the Apple events because sometimes I'm busy with other things. But overall, I dig Apple. I use their Macs a lot. I'm a big Mac user. I'm not a huge iOS and iPadOS person. But I think my review of the Poco Pad is coming anytime now to Geekspin. I submitted it like a week ago. And that's this really solid Android tablet for $320, except that I can't justify. Ooh, Poco! I can't justify that. That was Cliff showing a Poco F6 Pro
Poco,
here.
real quick there.
X6 Pro actually.
X6,
that was the X6
yes.
Pro. The yellow one I've gotten too. It's great. Since then we have the F6 Pro and the F6, which came out along with the pad. Right. I have them as well. The Poco. I was in Dubai for that event.
Fun.
But the thing that struck me was, even though I'm not an iPadOS person, it didn't seem to make that much sense to me to buy this Poco Pad, because for $30 more, you can buy a base iPad, which is in most ways superior. There are some areas where the Poco Pad is better. It's a larger screen, so if you're looking for that, it's also a better screen. Like, it's much brighter and has 144 hertz or 120 hertz, I can't remember, refresh. You'd think I'd wrote the review and I'd remember. Jesus. Miriam. Anyway, the point is that it's in some ways a better, and also performance is really slick, but performance on the iPad is not a problem. And the accessories, honestly, the keyboard stuff are much better on iPad, much better. And so it's about the same price. Once you add the pen and the keyboard, the whole package is about the same. You maybe save $50 with the Poco. And at that point, I'm like, the apps on Android are so bad. Yes. That's the biggest problem that kills tablets for me. I've got the OnePlus Pad 2 here. Amazing hardware. Absolutely. And the keyboard is amazing. It's not just the pad. They've did it right. Everything is good about this thing, except it's Android just destroys the experience. It's forget that. Buy an iPad, especially at that kind of money, because it's not cheap, the OnePlus. It's $550 or something. And then buy the way I have it configured from the review program they have, the tablet, the pen, which has the haptics in it, which is really cool. And the keyboard that has a really high quality touchpad and everything. It's $800 from OnePlus. The whole package, right? So at that point, buy an iPad Air or something. Why are you dicking around with bad apps? Mm-hmm. So I'm not an iOS person, but you should definitely see what they're coming up with on the iPhone 16. And you can either laugh or be happy, depending on what. But the bottom line is you can't ignore Apple. You can point and laugh. You can be like, oh, this is great. Or I want to see this on my Android phone. MagSafe. Come on.
Right.
Why is it that this phone, the HMD Skyline, is the only phone that you can get with magnets? For charging wirelessly. Come on.
Buying a third-party case, generally speaking.
And I hate
so
that. That's stupid.
I know.
That just doesn't make sense. Okay, so anyway, then we have another bit of Apple news. The colors for the iPhone 16 series leaked a couple of weeks ago. And I didn't mention this, but there's this weird brown color. So both the iPhone and the iPhone Pro colors leaked. The iPhone colors are pretty much what you expect. But the iPhone Pro colors, there's this supposed bronze color, and it looks like turd color. And honestly, like, here's the thing. Like, a lot of people, I hate this about people. Like, oh, it looks like poop. And I'm like, come on. There's been so many products out there made of brown material. Like, everything that looks brown, you're going to say looks like poop. Like, are you 12? Like, come on. Like, okay, look, Zune. Remember the Zune? Yeah, you know, it was a bit controversial this time, but it's good looking, especially with those green edges. And I think if Apple wants to do that, fine. Like, some people are gonna dig it. Like, brown chocolate. I would say, instead of saying poop, why don't you say it looks like it looks like a freaking chocolate bar. Look at it.
Does. I have a confession.
What?
I really want one of those brown Zunes.
See?
Yeah. Even though I couldn't even use it for anything.
One more reason to tune in. So I'll put a link in the show notes with the colors so you can see them. Samsung. So we have a couple of things that are important and exciting here. The S25 Ultra's design is leaking multiple times now. And the latest, it's like, I look at this and all I can think of, I don't have it reachable, like arm's length right now, but Red Magic. You know, the Red Magic 9 series that I have right now looks exactly like that render. This is not an official render. This is not even a leaked render. This is a render that they made based on the information they obtained about what it's going to look like.
It is extremely boxy, yes.
It's extremely Red Magic 8, 9 series. Like the 9 series that I have now, the 9 Pro and the 9S Pro, are perfectly flush. The cameras in the back too, which we're not going to get with Samsung. But it's like they went monolith all the way. And
I'm here for
this design. Yeah, I'm not mad at it. You like it overall? Like,
you know, I'm just glad. You know, we were discussing earlier, like
it
rounded
reminds
corners
me of the
on
Z
so many
Fold
things.
6 a lot. Like, you know how the Z Fold 6 is a tiny rounded, a little bit rounded in some places. Like, this is what this looks like to me.
Just like they took it to a lathe and just kind of polished the edges of the corners just a tiny bit. Yeah,
so
I like it.
It's probably easier. Yeah, I think I dig it too. The other thing that's cool is that more cool from Samsung this week is, you know, the Z Fold Special Edition has leaked. EV Evan leaked the dimensions of that. And holy crap balls, they're making a 4.9 millimeter thick when opened, 10.6 millimeter thick when closed. Folding phone. Samsung is. Samsung, guys. The ones we criticize for making the Z Fold 6 too thick. And especially in the light of, you know, the Honor Magic V3 and the Xiaomi Mix Fold 4 or whatever, 3 or 4, whatever the latest version is. Also, like, they're the thinnest when open and closed phones on the market. And I think Samsung's finally coming to the party going, oh, hold my beer. And I'm glad to say that because, look, I'm not a Samsung fangirl. You know this. I'm saying this. I'm wearing the Galaxy ring here. I'm reviewing it, okay? So here's the thing about Samsung is I know that they're really good at tech. The problem is that they don't apply themselves because they mostly compete against Apple and they don't care about the Chinese very much. But in China, they have to care about the Chinese. And they have a market in China. It's a small market, but it exists. And of course, in China, they get their lunch eaten by Apple right now. So they deigned to give us a folding phone that's going to be competitive. And that phone is not coming to the US. Boom.
How?
Ouch. So how do you feel about that?
You know, frustrated.
I hear you.
How else can you say that? Because like you're saying, really the last 2 generations have been so iterative, and because Samsung can be, and then they finally do something that, at least, you know, from the leaks, appears to be innovative, and they're not sitting. That's one of their biggest markets. What's the deal with that, Samsung? Why no love?
I think I get it. Like, I understand the reasonable logic behind it, but I also hate the fact that we, again, are gatekept. We're getting all the good phones, particularly a brand that is well marketed in our country, right? In our geography. I don't even want to say country because in Canada they follow the same stuff. Canada does get a few more Chinese phones than we do. The carriers do carry some Xiaomi and BBK stuff. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that drives me nuts. Is that this phone is going to be awesome. I know it. And we're never going to see it. and we're not even going to get review units. And people are going to immediately say, well, of course it's going to be great because it's going to cost like $2,500. And I'm going to be, yeah, but who cares? That's the whole point. If it came to the US, it'd be subsidized and you'd be paying an extra $3 a month on your wireless bill and you wouldn't care, right? Now, I'm a big advocate about buying phones unlocked, but I can understand the case for buying a phone subsidized when it's that expensive. So on one hand, I get it. Like, it's like they don't want to come in here and say, and like people bought the Z Fold 6 because they're like mega fans, right? And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait a minute. I just spent all this money on a Z Fold 6 and you bring me this awesome thing and then you suck, Samsung. And so I think the price is going to be so high that I think they're going to feel that it's prohibitive to this market. And also if the carriers don't want to carry it. Right. And this also possibly what happened. The carriers are like, are you nuts? We're not subsidizing this thing. Screw you, Samsung. You go back to huffing some paint over there in the corner. Like, you're nuts. And that's kind of what I think is going on here. And it sucks because, in markets where things are sold unlocked and it's a primary way of buying phones, you get this stuff and you can decide if you want to put your money behind it.
It would have been nice, though, where OnePlus is selling special editions of their Fold. With the one that has the red back, and I think there's possibly another one coming.
The crimson one.
Yes. And then Samsung has bespoke editions of their phones only available through Samsung's app or Samsung.com. So technically they could have done this. I know it's different because now you're dealing with, having to put like North America specific radios in and things like that. But still, it would have been cool for the fans. You do fan edition phones. This could have been just, instead of more affordable, it's less affordable.
Cliff, this is not a fan edition. Get with the program. This is a special edition.
Sure.
Okay. So I don't know what that means, but it's not for the fans. It's for the specials.
Well, you know what? I guess I'm just not special enough, but it's okay.
We're not special enough for this phone. Oh man, that hurts. Okay, let's move on. Speaking of folding phones, there's a bunch of news here. Huawei trifold phone has been seen in the wild over the last 2 weeks, including by the chairman, president, or whatever of Huawei and on airplane. And Huawei has actually come out and announced more or less, Richard Yu, the guy, the CEO, that had the phone on an airplane, has been seen with the phone some more and has actually officially confirmed that Huawei will be launching a trifold phone in September. So trifold, I love it. This is why I love Android.
Yes.
It's craziness. Like, nobody needs a trifold phone, but everybody needs a trifold phone, because why wouldn't you want a trifold phone? Come on, 10 inches of real estate.
I love wacky phones. It's great to see this. Unfortunately, we'll never see it here, but
yeah, but I think this is the kind of thing where it's specialized enough that we might be able to import it. And to justify this, actually, I want to go to the next news item, which is the fact that to kind of like annoy Huawei, I think, Tecno decided, hey, why don't we actually make it official that we're launching a trifold phone at some point and show a concept? So they have the Phantom Ultimate trifold, and they have a video and they have some photos of it. It looks real. It looks like the real thing. And Transsion, or whatever it's called, the company that runs Tecno and Infinix, is become a major player. Do you know that they're in the top 3 right now of phone sellers in the world? And they are making this trifold. Not necessarily making it, but they're definitely like courting the trifold concept.
That huge trifold market that's out there. Yeah.
And unlike the Huawei, which is blurry, like CEO photos holding the thing, we've got some actual real demos of real, I hope it's not just all rendered, but it looks pretty real to me. It looks like it's a prototype for sure, but it looks real. And I'm curious. Like, I'm going to IFA next week in Berlin. I have reached out to Tecno and asked them if they will have it in display or behind a glass case or something, because again, this is unofficial. I don't know anything. I'm not even under embargo, so I'm not breaking any rules here. But there's also rumors of them launching soon in version 2 of their fold and flip phones. Tecno, they had these devices, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's these at IFA. I'll put a link to GSM Arena when they covered this and like about 10 days ago. Check it out, folks, because these look very competitive. And again, we're talking about pricing earlier. Phantom, Tecno, whatever they're called, Infinix, these brands are very competitive on price. So I expect some good shit to come out of this.
I love everything that Infinix and Tecno are doing in terms of just making, again, wacky phones. Even just their standard candy bar
100%.
size, just the crazy cool colorways, the angular designs, and just all. And honestly, I kind of like some of the stuff in their software.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of Infinix and Tecno software, but I have to say that, in the early days, like it's what blows my mind the most about them is I've been following them since, they're pretty much the early days, like when they were making kind of mid-ranges phones that were kind of meh, but there was always a bit of sparkle in there somewhere, like, and I'm not talking about AI sparkles here, okay, like with the program folks, like, and sparkles don't just me. I'm talking about like something that stood out, and for me it was often like some feature, like super fast charging, or the cameras were good. The software needed polish, but the intrinsic images coming out of the cameras were good. And you'd be like, whoa, wait a minute, this is like a $250 phone, and it's got like OIS and autofocus and a 3x telephoto or something. And you'd be like, how can they make a $250? Like, it had shades of CMF phone, but clearly it wasn't going to work here at all because like it's designed for Africa and it totally hasn't the wrong bands. Yeah, and it doesn't even ping a wireless signal when you put a SIM in it. That was back in the day. Like I'm talking like during COVID is when I first got my hands on Infinix and Tecno. And now here we are 4 years later and these guys are playing with the big boys. I have some Tecno phones. Remember that one that had the telephoto that popped out? Like,
yes,
yeah, I have that. I have that one.
It was like
the Tecno
a year and a half ago.
It's like a year. I think it was January 23 or so.
Yeah,
and that phone was like top of the line, metal frame, LTPO OLED, the highest end Snapdragon you can throw in. Like I was like, this is a proper flagship. The software needed a bit of love, and that camera had an incredibly low f-stop. I can't remember what it was, but for telephoto, 3x or something, it was amazing. Like And I don't know. I just appreciate Tecno and Infinix so much, and I think you shouldn't dismiss them. And I think that they're ripe for coming to this market because nobody knows who they are, and they have brand names that are very Western. So why don't they start selling phones here and eat OnePlus's launch or something?
Especially now that Honor really, because Honor was doing pretty well before they had to exit on Amazon and Best Buy.
Yeah, they're scared that they're gonna get dinged by the sanctions.
I know.
Because we all know there's some shady stuff going on here between Huawei and Honor. Right? Now, as much as they don't want us to talk about it, and we don't have any evidence, I'm the first one to say that the Huawei sanctions on consumer products in the US are BS and should not exist. Like I totally understand, that you want to ban them from every network equipment. That's fair. I see the point. Like there's certainly a big chance of a backdoor there. But come on, their phones. InfoSec people have handled Huawei phones for years, and there's never been able to prove, and these guys are experts, that these phones called home in a way that was compromising your privacy. No more than you installing freaking TikTok on your phone, guys. Okay,
exactly.
And you have TikTok on your phones. I don't,
I just feel like protectionism is the enemy of innovation.
100%. And this is what's happening in the EV space right now. You're a car guy too, and it's like it's driving me nuts. Like when Justin Trudeau, my prime minister in Canada, announced this week that they were going to put the same ban, or not ban, but it might as well be a ban, 100% tariffs on Chinese. I'm like, are you freaking nuts? The Canadians are the only ones in North America, short of Mexico, who has a completely different market and has a lot of Chinese cars and has, a completely different need for cars than Canada and the US. But we're one, like North America includes Mexico. The North American Free Trade Agreement includes the three countries. But Canada is where you can still buy small hatchbacks. Like Nissan Micra is sold in Canada. Like, you can buy like a 3-door, like there are some cars that don't exist in the US that come to Canada. And so it's not like Canada always follows everything the US does, but in this case they did. And I'm like, what? Why?
I know.
You're completely stifling. Like this would be an opportunity for you to open a bunch of factories in Canada to make Chinese cars, have the investment money come in, hire Canadian jobs. Like, what are you doing? And again, you can take Canada and replace the word US here, Like this protectionism stuff is just going to kill our industry. Yes, initially it's going to hurt the industry because the big three are not going to be able to keep up. But the big three, this is an opportunity for the big three to pivot. You know,
and they're not.
like I was at Electrify Expo this past weekend and I talked to some people there, and, you know, a lot of them were journalists and people I don't get to see very often. Because unlike, you know, the tech journalism where we all end up at CS once a year or whatever, you know, not everybody goes to the car shows anymore. They're not nearly as important to journalists.
So a lot of crossover, actually.
So a lot of us just meet up at these first drives. But the first drives are in waves. So if you're on wave 1, you might not see the journalists that are on wave 3. So you don't always see each other very often. And so it was nice to see a bunch of local Bay Area folks there. And, you know, the general kind of thought we had was like, Ford, for example, needs to spin off like Mustang as a brand or Mach-E as a brand or Bronco as a brand or whatever as a brand to make EVs with an entire new business model that's you know, consumer, direct to consumer, online only, because that way they could avoid the whole dealership. Sure, they're going to get sued in some states, and the same thing has happened to Tesla, and they're going to end up in Indian reservations selling their cars, which is what Tesla does right now. In case you didn't know, in states that forbid, you know, that force you to have a dealer and don't allow you to buy a car online, like it's amazing. Imagine buying a car like you buy an iPhone. You just go there, you just buy now, and you go pick up your car. No haggling, no nothing. The price you see is the price you get. Like in states that don't allow that, and there's many of them, Tesla has gone around this by basically saying, hey, Indian reservations, would you let us have a dealership in your, or rather a, you know, display shop in your premises so we can deliver the cars to our customers? And they're like, yep, we're not bound to these rules. Like, come on, party. And why don't you gamble a little bit, you know? Totally cool. But my point is, I'm like you. Protectionism doesn't work. And here's what I'm going to say. Like, I know if you work in the auto industry, it's freaking you out, and it should be freaking you out. I'm pro-union. I don't want people to lose their jobs. But I want us to improve as a country, the US. I'm a dual citizen. I vote, and I want us to improve as a country. And the only way we're going to be back to being a strong industry in tech, not beyond software, which we're good at, is by making our own technology here, like Tesla did, like Lucid is, like Rivian is. And I know the traditional car makers rely on still selling gas, and not everybody can afford an EV. I get it. Although right now the lease deals are unbeatable, frankly. And you buying a used car right now, buy a used Tesla. I know Elon sucks, but come on, like they're so cheap right now. Like you cannot say they're expensive if you want to buy one used. Okay, so the point is, and you know, if you believe in EVs, which you should, but that's a whole different discussion. I actually have an article coming up on TechWriter this weekend about traveling on and doing how to do an EV road trip, walking you through the whole thing, and like not Tesla because that's easy, right? But I'm talking about like, and it's not as hard as you think. And many of you are ready for EVs. You just don't know it. It's just a mindset thing. You just have to change your brain a little bit. And the point I'm trying to make is that we need as a country to have an industry that survives, and for it to survive, it's going to have to be rebooted from scratch. And it means a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. But we need the Chinese to come in here because the Chinese will build factories and hire people, and we're going to get great cars. These cars are no longer the crappy, unsafe cars that they made a decade ago. These are solid cars with solid technology. And I know that this is the whole Huawei blinders thing of like, oh my God, they're going to take your data and like, because it's all, of course, you know, cyber warfare at this point, right? Because like, that's what they're thinking. That's why I don't think it's because of the cars being good that they want them. It's not the competition as much as they're freaking out about the data collection and all the, you know, all the software stuff that comes with modern cars, whether the EVs or not. Like, trust me, the gas cars now have all that stuff too. So I think that's what's happening.
I think so much of the problem too, just really, really quickly, is all these legacy automakers, unfortunately, just have, you know, ties with suppliers. They're not making their own things, and they can't get the prices down and innovate because they're chained to so much of the old way of doing business.
And also they can't get their batteries locally.
Right,
you know,
right,
exactly. So anyway, let's move on, but I just wanted to bring it out there because we're talking about Honor, and Honor and Huawei are still in this really weird way intertwined that's kind of uncomfortable to everyone. unfortunately. And it sucks because, they now have pretty much announced that they're going to launch these really great products at IFA. The Magic V3, which has been out in China for a while, the thinnest folding phone in the world. The Magic Pad 3, which is like a tablet, and the Magic Book Art 14, which is an Intel-based super sexy laptop, 14-inch. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to be at IFA, so stay tuned for that. But, the bottom line is Honor has a big problem, and beyond the problem that they can't, if they try to come to this market like Tecno and Infinix could, or like even Xiaomi could, they are going to, and BBK is already here with OnePlus, they could get scrutiny from the US authorities because they have never really cleared that blurry line between them and Huawei. And on top of that, and you can see that in their software, and on top of that, their software isn't that good, like from a user experience perspective. And then on top of that, their marketing and PR is insane. Like Honor does not know marketing and PR. It is a freaking disaster dealing with them, especially for us smaller pubs. And that's why you haven't seen me cover Honor. Like, why don't I have Honor phones on my desk? Because they just don't send them to me. And why do they not send them to me? I have no idea. Like, if I was just a tiny little independent creator that, had like an audience of 10,000 listeners, but I don't. I have hundreds of thousands listeners. And on top of that, I write for major publications. I have no idea why I don't get the phones from them. It makes no sense. And the way they market them, like, what alternative universe do you live in, Honor?
It's like it's so tone deaf. It's ridiculous.
Right. So we'll leave you with that on Honor. The last thing I want to really briefly touch on is that I'm a little excited about this piece of news. As you know, I've talked about this before, but a lot of thoughts around the Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 was that because it's going to be much more powerful, which is good, it's also potentially going to be a little bit more hungry in terms of power in some sort of situations, like when you're playing games. And thermals are going to be a little harder to manage because of that. So, it's when it runs just like UI and you doing Twitter and Insta and stuff, it is going to be fine. But when you play like a hardcore game, it's going to want some serious juice. And that means the battery life needs to be addressed with a bigger battery, and that means you need better thermal management. All that is fine, except that's going to make phones thicker, right? If you need to put a bigger battery in there, and unless you can kind of magically find, now there are some solutions to that, carbon batteries and new thermal, systems management solutions that the Chinese are spearheading, Honor in particular. But BBK Group had announced pretty much that they were going to, had strongly hinted that they were going to have bigger batteries this year on their flagships. And my first thought when I heard that is they're going to remove wireless charging, right? Because, in the Chinese world, wireless charging is kind of hit and miss. Yeah. And BBK Group's being very good at being like, 1 year they do it, 1 year they don't. And I was like, oh, frick, I can't understand where they're coming from with this, But now we have a strong rumor here, which got me excited, that the Oppo Find X8 Ultra, the flagship from Oppo, the camera-centric phone, will have a 6100 to 6200 milliamp hour battery, which is really amazing. And it will keep, the fast charging speeds wired that it has, but it will also keep the wireless charging speed that it has. So it'll stay at 100 watt wired and 50 watt wireless. And hallelujah again.
Yes.
You're not religious, but I kind of love that. It's kind of fun. Seriously, like this is good news because it means they're probably using carbon batteries at this point because that's the only thing I can think of. Also, whatever kind of like, vapor chamber wizardry they're using for this is going to be interesting to see how it develops. What's your thoughts on that?
It's going to be very exciting. I mean, BBK has been at the forefront of pushing charging speeds. I mean, if I remember correctly, they were the first to do the dual batteries. So
yeah,
that they could
they're actually the first to do 25 watt. Back in the day, like OnePlus was the first to bring 25 watt charging. I think OnePlus 3 was the first. And then from then on, we got 30. And then we got, when they hit about 65, that's when they did the dual cell stuff with Oppo first. And then, it's been uphill ever since. Culminating with a couple of weeks back, the Realme 320 watt, whatever it was, 320, geez, announcement.
320 watt. I missed that announcement.
Yeah,
Holy
check
cow.
it out.
I had a Realme with
Arena and
65
type
watts, and I
Realme
thought that was great
320.
back in the day.
Yeah, I think I had this conversation with my guest 2 weeks ago. I think it was on Shell. Like, we've agreed 240 is, we'll settle for 240. Thank you very much. Anyway, yeah, so there you go. That's the news this week, folks. We've managed to cover it all.
Supersonic charge.
Which is like, holy crap. So, Cliff, do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet? Where are all your social media handles? What do you do? Where do you publish your stuff? I know you've got the podcast with Adam. Maybe pitch that.
Sure. That's what I'll do. So yeah, you can find me. I've had the same social media handles ever since I first joined the artist formerly known as Twitter, now known as X. But you can find me with the same one everywhere, Clifton M. Thomas, all one word, whether it's Threads, X, Facebook, even I'm sure. But and then you can find me as far as on the web. I am currently I'm a freelance writer, and I am with bylines at Slashgear, and I have done one review as well over at Gear Diary, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, Gear Diary is awesome. I've written for them as well a few times. So
yeah,
awesome.
And, you can find me generally every week. We're releasing a video over at Benefit of the Doubt on YouTube, which is where you'll find most of my video content. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, you definitely listen to Adam and Cliff every week. It's awesome stuff. So, folks, you know where to find me on the internet. I'm at Tinkerl. That's TNKGRL, like the comic book character. Drop the vowels. You know how it goes. I'm on all the social media handles with that. So, Twitter, Instagram, Threads is where I'm mostly active. Then there's, of course, Blue Sky and a few others. So, if you want to chat with me and Cliff, find us on social. Chat with us about the podcast. Tell us your thoughts. The podcast itself lives at mobiletechpodcast.com. It's on all the major platforms, including YouTube Music now. I've fixed that. And so please subscribe if you haven't yet, if it's your first time here. Tell your friends so that they can subscribe and join the party as well. And then finally, so there's YouTube channel if you want to watch some videos related to this. I do unboxings and hands-ons usually. YouTube.com/mobiletechpodcast. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, all that good stuff. Comment below the videos. Comment about the podcast if you want as well. Also, because YouTube Music, the podcast as an audio version is available on my other channel, youtube.com/mobiletechmore. I didn't want to kind of pollute my main channel with a lot of videos that come out automatically every week, because it's a video with a still image that's auto-generated from our RSS feed. So check that out if you want to listen to the podcast on your YouTube app, like YouTube video app, you can do that. And you can comment there, which is great. So that's it. And then Patreon, we've mentioned Patreon a few times during the show. I've unboxed the HMD Skyline just there. I showed you the OnePlus Buds, and I showed you the Pixel 9 Pro XL. There they are, all of them. Ooh. And so, that's, if you want to see us on video every week, me and my guests, please join the Patreon. There's a $5 tier that lets you get 4 videos a month, or 5 depending on what month it is. Every week you get a video version, and you get like a day in advance. So you can listen to the show and watch us. And it's fun because I leave some bloopers in, like some of the silly stuff that happened today. So check that out. And please support me if you can with the Patreon. Patreon.com/Tankerl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. And remember that you don't have to use Patreon if you want to support me. And there's other tiers there as well. So you're not stuck with just $5. But if you want to just give me a one-time donation, there's a link in the show notes. You can click through and use PayPal to buy me a coffee or something. I like me a good coffee. So consider that. Please help if you can. And I also want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And finally, thanks, Cliff, for being my guest. I really appreciate having you on. It's been a blast.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thanks for having me on. And thanks for joining us a few times over at Benefit of the Doubt. We loved having you.
Absolutely, anytime. And folks, stay tuned. I'll have Cliff at some point in the show again in the future, and we'll definitely have a show next week. You know, we have one soon. So stay tuned for that. And until then, cheers, everybody.